All right, everyone, it's time to talk about the South Carolina primaries. They are coming up very quickly here. The anticipation based on all the polling we have is that Biden will win the state. This could be his chance to make the comeback that he would need to be competitive on Super Tuesday. Here's the problem. Biden's already far enough behind in terms of enthusiasm, especially, I would say, that any further mistakes would fuck him anyway, and what that would do is just mean a contested convention. What'll end up happening here is that if Biden fails, he'll probably drop. He might back Buttigieg, he might endorse Bloomberg, he might even endorse Warren. Warren may, by the way, drop after South Carolina, too. She might come in 5th place. At what point do you say I'm fucked? At what point do you say she's not slated to even come in 2nd in most of the Super Tuesday states? Fucking drop out and let other people handle it. Let the adults at the table figure it out. Klobuchar will probably be gone. I would expect Klobuchar, all the bravado about her 4th place victory in Nevada aside, at some point she's got to drop, even though she is technically rising in the polls simply because other people are collapsing. It's hard to say who might drop out after South Carolina. I think at this point a lot of them want to stay until Super Tuesday, wait to make a decision. The DNC, if it is smart, will proclaim that it wants everyone to drop out who's not from the top 3 in any of the first 4 states after South Carolina's voting is done. Biden may just barely be inside of that threshold because he came in, of course, I believe 2nd place in Nevada, edging Buttigieg, actually. But if he doesn't win South Carolina, he needs to leave. Joe Biden is no longer viable if he does not win the state of South Carolina. Now, I don't mean a close second. I don't mean he comes in close enough to get delegates. I don't mean a cherished 3rd place victory. He's in the winner's circle. I mean win, and preferably win by a large margin. What this would do is it would showcase his expanded support among certain urban voting blocs that admittedly don't like Buttigieg, who's the only other main moderate at the moment whose name is in Bloomberg, and they're certainly not backing Warren or Sanders. They don't have high support among these groups. Without those certain urban voting groups being behind you at large levels, you're probably not going to stand a chance in the general. It's another one of Sanders' weaknesses, by the way. It is technically true. That being said, Biden could come in below expectations. He did in Iowa. He did in New Hampshire, certainly. If Biden comes in below expectations and barely ekes out a win in South Carolina, like if he wins by 2 points or something, it's basically a loss for him. It'd be sort of like Bernie Sanders in New Hampshire. Bernie Sanders won New Hampshire. He won by 2 points. In a state right next to Vermont, in which he has massive crossover support, has always enjoyed a huge lead, crushed Hillary Clinton, and he barely manages to win the state against hayseed Dracula. That was basically a defeat for him in victory. Not like Nevada, where he blows it out of the water. Biden preferably will match Bernie Sanders' overperformance in Nevada in South Carolina. If he can do that, he stays viable. If he cannot do that, if he falls to 2nd, which the polls don't suggest he will, but it's possible. We could be seeing outliers. We're not sure. I mean, the polls have been all over the place already in the primaries. It's making it very difficult to actually predict going forward who's going to be in or out on a given day. All we know is that the lower tier candidates like Steyer's never been actually viable. He shouldn't even be in the race. He's just stubborn. Bloomberg should never have gotten in. He's not even on the ballot in South Carolina either, although maybe they take write-ins. It'd be funny if he got 2-3% that way. He's been focusing on Super Tuesday, but he's beginning to fall back down. And so, by the way, here's a secret. Sanders appears to have hit his hard peak. If that is the case, he will collapse before Super Tuesday if he underperforms in South Carolina, and the Bernie effect will be washed away completely. And it'll be the tale of essentially Biden and Bloomberg and possibly Buttigieg duking it out over the Super Tuesday states. That could happen. Sanders could lose front-runner status very easily, and Sanders fans are too moronic to realize this. It's not likely, though, because in order for that to happen, you either have to have Biden outperform considerably, which all indicators say he won't, or Sanders underperforms, which is possible. Polling is, fucked up in these various races, but this isn't a caucus state, this is a primary. It's a little bit different, it's more straightforward. By the way, caucus states really do, the Democrats jumped through hoops to try to remove as many caucus systems as they could for their primary system, specifically because they favored outsider candidates like Sanders, who, they peddle snake oil. They simply happen to be charismatic and have a strong on-the-ground game. They did that specifically to kneecap Sanders, actually. I will admit this. The Bernie fans are totally not wrong about that. They did that as a direct reaction to what happened in 2016. It's sort of like the Republicans when they changed some of their campaign rules in the wake of the Ron Paul revolution. Well, it didn't look good. One of the reasons that they lost is they alienated millions of voters by literally shafting Ron Paul. At one point, they had a bus full of delegates pledged to him that they wouldn't allow to park, nor would they allow them to disembark from the bus in order to take their seats. You had all sorts of shoddy shit going on at that Republican convention where they jerry-rigged Mitt Romney and Mitt Rommel, the used car salesman, slick Mitt. And he lost. And there's a reason for that. It was close in some of the states. Maybe if those Ron Paul voters had been appeased a little bit more, it wouldn't have been so much of a problem. Bernie sort of forms the other side. By the way, I fully expect that the Democrats will come roaring to life in the near future. I just don't think Bernie Sanders is the one to do it. Bernie is like their Ron Paul preceding it. They have to be more alienated before they'll push for a reform within the DNC. The DNC is still run by the same saps that were running it in 2016, and the Bernie fans think their candidate can magically overcome them. I disagree. It's funny, though, because even though Biden might be about to win his first state by double-digit margins and give himself viability, potentially pick up states on Super Tuesday, that's not even the main news. We still always frame it in terms of Bernie Sanders now, don't we? He's really fucked the Democratic Party. He's fucked them hard. Maybe this is Bernie's revenge. He's like, well, I'm not even going to win. He knows he's going to fail in the general because he's 80 almost and has heart problems. And most people reject socialism, and he's not going to be good at debating Trump because he doesn't understand what he's talking about economically. Maybe he's just doing this to fuck the Democrats. He's like, you fucked me in 2016 real hard, and to turn around, it's my turn. Wouldn't that be funny? If Bernie Sanders' motive is malice against his own party, the one that he wasn't technically part of, and the Democrats were right about that. I would expect Biden wins. In polling, Bernie Sanders is in second, but distantly, although he's not outside of the possibility of getting bumped out by Steyer, possibly Buttigieg or Warren, but it doesn't look like they'll be up there. By the way, Elizabeth Warren, if she's not in the top 3, can you fucking drop out? Can you admit you were sort of the party darling, the runner-up to Biden, expecting if he collapses, then she takes the 4. That didn't happen, did it? Bernie took the 4. Bernie ended up stealing all of that thunder. Ha ha ha. Elizabeth Warren so far has managed to embarrass herself over and over again. She's an embarrassment of a candidate. She also has candidacy money issues now. If she doesn't get into the top 3, there's no argument going forward that she's viable. Klobuchar can stay in because she was always a run-from-behind candidate who's on the rise. Warren's still falling. There's no reason for her to be in. By the way, if she were to drop out, Klobuchar would probably get at least half that support. She'd technically be viable. She'd be up where Bloomberg is in the polls because she's female. At the end of the day, there are sexist voters in the country that'll only vote for the person if they have, certain things between their legs. That's just the long and short of it. It shouldn't work that way. It's no different from people voting based on skin color or religion or anything else. But there are people in the country that do that. We've got to be honest about that fact. If Warren drops out, doesn't matter who she endorses, Klobuchar is the big winner if that happens. Klobuchar, by the way, could drop out, re-inject Elizabeth Warren with some support. The problem is, of course, if she hasn't won any of the first 4 states, and in 3 of them hasn't even come in the top 3, she's not viable. It doesn't matter at that point. Klobuchar can at least say, well, I'm just finding my footing. Now vote for me on Super Tuesday. I'm a moderate, by the way. Which she's not. All these people are fanatics. Bloomberg's the closest thing to a moderate that you have within the Dem field, and he's not. He's a far left. He's a New York far leftist. He used to be center left. Before that was arguably a fucking conservative. He was a Republican and shit. It's really funny how the field is operating. So yeah, Biden probably wins. Not certainly, though. We got to keep an eye on the possibility of outlier polls. But if it's in the other direction, let's say Biden outperforms and Bernie comes in under the mark, doesn't get any delegates, yeah, you could see definitely at that point you're looking at a contested convention sort of thing, probably, because Super Tuesday will get fucking messy. Look for these people to take one another's goddamn heads off before Super Tuesday if Biden does extra well. Look for that to happen. That's about all. Peace out.